Hello everyone, I'm Melissa Duran. Thank you so much for joining me for Trending Vegas. A lot has been going on in recent weeks, so we have a lot to talk about today. I'm joined by a portion of the city's social media and communications team, including Jace Radke and Natasha Shahani, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. We are social distancing, of course, so Jace is over yonder. He can hear us, but
more than 6 feet.
Yeah, we're more than 6 feet apart, keeping it safe over here. All right, guys, I want to start ahead. I want to talk to you guys about how life has been for you guys over the last couple of weeks with the vaccination rollout. What kind of questions are you guys getting? How hard is it for you all to stay on top of the information? Because it feels like it's constantly changing.
It is constantly changing. I got called out on our city Instagram account because literally, like within hours that I did the research on something and the time I posted it, somebody was like, you should check your information. It just changed. And I'm like,
oh, no.
So it is really hard to stay on top of the changing recommendations. We are trying our best to put as much information as we know out there. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it is also encouraging people to do their own research. And we talked to SNHD director, the Southern Nevada Health District, their lead nurse and director of clinical services on our social media feed, so you can still find it on Facebook and Twitter, about the vaccine, the process, how people, who's eligible, how you can make an appointment. And that's one of the things she said too, there are a lot of questions. We have generalizations, right? Here's who's eligible, here's this. But if you have a medical condition or you have an allergy and you're not sure, consult your medical provider. If you have questions because you're pregnant or breastfeeding or want to become pregnant soon, consult, research. At the end of the day, this is everyone's personal decision. Mm-hmm. The three things that it's free, it's safe. Those are some of the points that we're going, and it can help us stop this spread. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's up to everyone to make that decision.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we do note that the city we're not medical providers. We're basically giving you the information to go out, do your own research, and go where you think is best suited for you. Jace, what are you seeing? What kind of questions are you getting?
Yeah, a lot of questions. I think, we see people are frustrated because obviously there's large numbers of people who want to be vaccinated, and there's a process to go through, and sometimes it's not always the neatest process because you have multiple governmental agencies involved, like Natasha said. And, we've been referring people to the health district website, but you have to remember, again, that website doesn't update itself. There's a human behind the scenes updating it. So, we just ask everybody to pack their patience. Recently we've started to see more neighborhood vaccination sites pop up in the historic West Side and up in Summerlin in the city. And we saw those at Doolittle Senior Center. They went within an hour and a half to an hour. We had 450 appointments and they were all gone. So we did have some people frustrated about that, but I'll date myself. It's kind of like, when I was a kid, Cabbage Patch Kids were the hot thing, the hot toy, right? And nobody could get them. But then once the supply caught up, there's hundreds of Cabbage Patch Kids. So it's the same thing. The supply is starting to catch up now. So if everybody's just a little patient for a little longer, people should find it easier to start getting vaccinated.
Right, and I think you have to look on the bright side of things. It means that people are actually going out and getting the available vaccines that are available to our community. So before we move on to our topics, where can people go to keep up with the most updated information?
There are 3 websites. So if you are in Nevada, we recommend that you go to NV COVID Finder. Then you can also go to the Southern Nevada Health District. And then last but not least, because it's where everyone is getting the information from, is the CDC. So the CDC has pages upon pages just on the vaccine, links to articles, research papers, and sometimes the other websites will direct to the CDC webpage as well.
Okay, great information. Thank you guys so much. All right, well, let's go ahead and move on. The biggest news of the past week, and that is the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. First, from our new president on his first day on the job, he writes, "There is no time to waste when it comes to tackling the crisis we face. That's why today I am heading to the Oval Office to get right to work delivering bold action and immediate relief for American families." And then from our vice president, simple 3 words, ready to serve. Now, there was also a very cool component this year. Because they couldn't have the huge parade that they typically do, they held virtual events like the Parade Across America. And one of our local high schools were featured, specifically Mariachi Hoya from Las Vegas High School. Let's take a listen.
Tierra de los sones y lindos árabes, 50 en la historia de mis raíces y tradiciones. Ay, 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 como quiero a mi mariachi. En mero tierra caliente, Nayarit y Michoacán. La tierra.
Well, finally, a lot of people don't realize that President Biden and team had to start their social media accounts from scratch. Before the inauguration, President Biden wrote this: "This will be the account for my official duties as president. At 12:01 p.m. on January 20th, it will become at POTUS. Until then, I'll be using Joe Biden." And then he goes on to list everyone else in the public that we should follow. So I kind of want to start there. I've always wondered how they make that transition from a person in office to use that same account. So Natasha, how did they do that this time?
So this is all relatively new in this transition. When President Obama transitioned to President Trump, everything kind of followed with him.
All the accounts.
All of the accounts,
okay.
Right? So it was like, here you end the number of followers, the next, it continued on, everything was transferred over. And the things were archived to start anew. However, with this, social media has gained a lot of traction. President Trump used his personal account more than he used the POTUS account. And so I don't know if that came into factor, but what they did was they decided to start all over. So they basically turned President Trump POTUS into POTUS 45, and then did new POTUS for President Biden, and same followed suit. So FLOTUS 45, FLOTUS, VP 45, VP. So everybody was kind of starting from scratch again,
right.
Which
I
is
felt like
really
I had to go in and refollow everybody,
Yep.
and I was confused because I thought, well, I already followed this account.
And so like a new slate, new standards, new set. So it was really interesting to even just see the difference between the Obama-Trump transition to the Trump-Biden transition. And I think this is just going to keep evolving as everyone gets on more platforms. There's just going to be more things to archive and to keep keep up with. So
Right. Now, another thing that came out during this whole switch over is that President Biden and his team announced that they are going to be providing American Sign Language in all of their briefings, and this was a big deal because that's something that the past president did not do. Jace, what can you tell us about that on social?
Well, people seem to embrace it because it's more inclusive, right? And it makes sense just from them getting the word out, because if you're having a press conference, your goal is to get the word out, have people hear what you're saying. So, you want to have as many people, cast as wide a net as possible. So that only can help in getting their message out.
And that's definitely not the only thing they're doing. And speaking of the ASL, at the inauguration that was set, because the person who did the Pledge of Allegiance did it both in spoken word and through ASL. And I think this new administration is dedicated to making everything more accessible. So if you go to whitehouse.gov, you'll see some changes to the website as well, including dark mode, larger text sizes, sections for Spanish speakers. There's also forms that let you choose different pronouns, so not just he, she, they as well in there. And so I think you're starting to see the changes, and I know from a city social media team, we're trying to figure out okay, what is the precedent that we need to follow? Some things as small as putting emojis at the end of the sentences instead of in the middle of the text when we tweet is supposed to make a difference. So we're learning along and trying to make small changes as we go.
It really is interesting. And the one thing that I thought was interesting about this inauguration, compared to even just 4 years ago, we were still in the midst, we had social media, Twitter, Facebook. It's not like this is new. But I felt like because of the pandemic and because social media has evolved so much over the last 5 years, we really got a behind the scenes look at the inauguration. The inaugural committee did a great job of giving us those behind the scenes look of what was going on. I watched the whole thing on the news, but I found myself also on social media seeing different pictures that were not being shown on television. I thought it was a really interesting way to handle the whole event. Jace, did you watch?
Here and there. I mean, one thing I did look on social, and one thing I can tell you that hasn't changed, since we're talking about the things that are changing, is we just had a flip-flop, right? So now the people that or maybe are more conservative are now on social media documenting any of the gaffes from the first couple weeks of President Biden, whereas maybe the more supportive people of the president are now on there praising what's going on. So, the more things change, the more they also stay the same when it comes to social media.
Absolutely. Very good point. All right, guys. Well, the obvious transition here is Bernie Sanders, who took over the internet with memes of him at the inauguration. Now, these memes went on and on for weeks, so I thought it would be fun for us to talk about our favorites. Jace, you're up first. Which one was your favorite? Talk about why you liked it so much.
Yeah, I used, they put Bernie into the Breakfast Club with Emilio Estevez and all the folks from that 80s classic, and again, old 80s, like that stuff. So just funny. The whole thing is funny to me because it's just a microcosm of what makes the social media sphere so strange, because you never know what's going to be viral.
I mean, you never know. Natasha, what was yours?
It's this black and white photo, and it sticks out to me the most because I literally had to do a double take, because in the middle of my social media feeds that day of all of the memes, I was like, why is this photo here? And then if you look closely, he stole the internet that day and for days after, but kudos to his team for turning it into a charity fundraiser.
Absolutely.
And they've raised over, I think the last I checked, over $1.8 million for organizations that fight hunger in local communities. People are following suit. They are creating their own merchandise and donating it as well. So, I mean, I'm always up for a good, social viral thing that turns good for the whole community.
Yeah, and here is actually an Instagram post from Bernie Sanders himself, who says, Bernie Sanders even got in on the action by posting, "Get yours in the link in the bio, a shirt for sale that would go to charities in Vermont." I thought it was really interesting because at first, Bernie Sanders was upset. He was like, why are we talking about this? Let's get to work. But then I think you start realizing, well, I can capitalize on this and help people in need, and so I think it was really interesting. My favorite was Jason Momoa at some sort of soccer game, and he takes out his chair and flips it, and Bernie Sanders is sitting there. That was my favorite. I laughed really hard. We had the "Where's Waldo" and "Where's Bernie." I think I could not find this one again online when I looked, but one of the funniest things was Bernie Sanders dressed super casually, acting like this was not his only stop of the day. Like he has stuff to do. Yeah. And I just thought it was great. And like you said, Jace, the internet, you just never know what you're gonna get. All right, guys. Next, let's talk about the Super Bowl after big name companies decided they were not going to spend on advertising in the Super Bowl, but instead redirect their funds to help with COVID vaccination education and rollout. Those big names include Budweiser, but of course, social media is picking up that slack. They wrote, "For the first time in 37 years, we aren't running a commercial during the Super Bowl. Instead, we're helping to safely bring America back together again soon. Watch to learn how."
We can turn rooftops into mountaintops. We can turn boundaries into common ground. We can turn solitude into closeness. And screen time into playtime. Silent stadiums, let them hear the roar of history being written.
Historic 2020 NBA championship.
We turn waiting and waiting and waiting into dancing and dancing and
And of course, someone commented, so you made a 90-second ad to advertise that you aren't advertising. Others appreciated the gesture. I will miss the Clydesdale, but I appreciate you all using your money and time to help with getting the messages out about COVID vaccines. Thank you so much. And then there is this. Viacom CBS said this morning that it is now virtually sold out of Super Bowl ad inventory. This comes on the heels of big advertisers like Budweiser, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and Hyundai opting out of the game time broadcast commercials this year. 30-second spots were going for $5.5 million. I thought this was really interesting, guys, because I'm not going to lie. I love Budweiser commercials, seeing the Clydesdale. It's nostalgic in some way. At the same time, I'm like, oh, they're not going to run an ad. But, oh, wait, here's this 90-second ad on social media that seems to be getting a lot of attention. So it was really, it's a strategic move, I feel, on Budweiser's part. Natasha, what do you see?
There's a lot, that's a big number for 30 seconds. And you think of like Ryan Reynolds last year was like, I'm just going to pull out a full page ad in the New York Times for less money and they'll probably be more effective. But they had 77 national spots available and they had to add more. So it's clearly not stopping a lot of them. Right. Some people like Budweiser are donating the funds to the ad council so that there's vaccine messaging throughout. But I watch a Super Bowl for Ad Bowl. I live tweet. Mm-hmm. But by the time I get to Super Bowl, I've almost seen all of the new ads, or at least like a majority of them. And you have morning shows doing one new commercial a day. So is it really like an ad bowl anymore if you've already kind of dissected them and seen them and watched them before?
So then why do you think they are still so expensive? Jace, I want to get your input on this. What do you think?
Well, they're expensive because that's where all the eyeballs are. I mean, the Super Bowl is basically a national holiday at this point, minus the day off from work the next Monday, which we should have. So, I mean, everybody's watching it, and that's why they can sell them for that astronomical amount of money. But I did see some contrarian posts out there on social with people pointing out things like, some of the companies may be donating some of the money they would have spent on the commercials to good causes, but also, they don't have to pay to have the commercial made. So they are saving some money in what is a down economy too. Like, I remember that Pepsi commercial, I don't know, a couple years ago, and they had like Beyonce and Britney Spears in it. Like, those people didn't do that commercial for free. So if you don't do a commercial, you don't got to pay those people either.
I guess I just wonder how, as social media becomes more and more part of our everyday routine, like it already is, are you going to start seeing the ads just on the internet? Because I know that during the Super Bowl, when the commercials air, I'm getting some chips. I'm getting chips, I'm getting a drink. Then I come back and I know that I can just watch those commercials online on Twitter at some point the following day. So we'll see where it goes. I thought it was interesting though.
Yep, I think the biggest thing we're seeing, especially being in Las Vegas, is why Super Bowl LV is not in LV. Like, that from our community is, why is Super Bowl LV not in Las Vegas? And I get that that's been planned like before we even had a stadium, but I think from our local community, that is the question we're getting the most.
Think about the marketing opportunities that could have brought. All right, guys. Well, finally, before we go, we have to talk about our Las Vegas snow day. Some of you saw snow, and for others, it was just in the distance. I got snow at my house. In fact, here's a picture of my kids who got up super early to check it out and build a snowman. Of course, it was nothing compared to this giant snowman. I don't even know where this is. I believe it's in Summerlin somewhere. But you guys, did you get snow, Natasha?
No, I didn't get
She's
snow.
so upset.
I'm so upset because everyone was like, snow, here's my backyard, look at this. Like a group work chat, and I'm just sitting here like looking out my window and there's nothing. I was really sad.
Jace?
Yeah, no, we had snow. I live in the Northwest because West Side's the best side here in Las Vegas. But we had snow. I immediately got in my car and went and shot some footage for our social team so they could have some stuff to tweet out. Went to Police Memorial Park, and there was probably 5 or 6 dogs out there running around playing in the snow and kids making snowmen. Las Vegas loves a snow day.
Yeah, and we actually shout out to Steve Horlock for going out there and getting us some like really cool drone footage. Steve works for the KCLV team, and that video went viral. It got hundreds and hundreds of likes. It got picked up by news stations as well.
The Today Show, I think, used it.
And then we had some people being like, "You call that snow?" Yes, we call this snow.
We call it snow, and so my dog went crazy crazy in the snow. Our snowman was alive for a good 12 hours before he disappeared. So, that's a big deal for us. And I just love on days like that seeing all the creative social media out there. The Review Journal had a great picture of a little boy at a park and just everyone just having fun. It was good news, much needed good news, some fun, something to smile about. So, love the snow. All right, guys. Well, even though COVID numbers seem to be slightly improving, a lot of people are wondering what that means for restaurants. When we come back, I'm sitting down with our business licensing section to talk about ways they're trying to help our businesses during the pandemic. We'll be right back.
As we come out of this pandemic, businesses need help. At the Vegas Chamber, we've partnered with Workforce Connections to make this happen.
These business hubs can help you find qualified candidates, build an effective hiring process, explore training options, and connect you to funding resources.
These resources are real and available to all businesses in Las Vegas. Connect online or visit your local Employee NV Business Hub today.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention reminds you to care for your mental health in the face of uncertainty. Focus on what's in your control versus what's not. Do what helps you feel a sense of safety. Remind yourself to stay in the present and stay connected with others. Reach the crisis text line by texting TALK to 741-741 or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. We're in this together, and help is always available.
Welcome back, everyone. The pandemic has taken a huge toll on our businesses, especially restaurants who are seeing a huge dip in their sales. Now, from the get-go, the city's business licensing section has done what they could do to help. They're still trying to do that to this day. I'm joined by Business License Section Manager Minerva Gomez. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you guys have been so busy from the get-go,
Yes.
especially last year when the governor shut everything down. Businesses going, what are we going to do? What do we do to help? So you guys came up with curbside and some outdoor dining options. Right now, though, outdoor dining is a big thing. So has stuff changed for you guys in terms of permitting, licensing, rules?
Well, the outdoor, we have a couple temporary COVID programs, and one of them is the outdoor dining. Normally, it's a pretty involved process to get any outdoor area permitted under the licensing process. But in this case, we're able to fast track a lot of those reviews. And as long as you meet certain conditions, we can approve you within a day of submitting your request for that expansion area.
Have you been sleeping at all, Minerva? That's the question, because wow, that's a really quick turnaround.
Well, it's critical right now, especially with the occupancy limits being at 25%. That's just devastating for all brick and mortar establishments right now. Right. So the outdoor dining allows them to still provide their service in a safe environment under certain conditions, and it's just very helpful to get those extra bodies
now,
to provide the services too.
I would assume because restaurants are saying we've got to get people in the door, we have to get creative. How do we think outside the box? I'm pretty sure it's tempting for them to just set up tables outside without the required permits or licensing. What kind of things are you seeing that you do not want businesses to be doing right now?
Well, the main thing is setting up structures. Before a lot, especially right now with the cold weather, people are setting up enclosed structures, and that creates additional issues if they're not the appropriate structures or they're not set up appropriately. One of the big fire safety issues that we have is some of those structures, especially if they're enclosed, do not have the proper coverage as far as being the fire retardant to prevent them from
going up in flames.
Going up in flames. Yeah, we want to make sure whatever environment you're creating is the safest possible environment for your customers.
If you apply for one of these outdoor permits,
yes,
do they send someone out to make sure that the outdoor looks the way it needs to be and has everything in place that it needs to have?
Well, when they reach out to us in licensing as a licensed establishment and state, hey, I would like to expand my area, this is what I want to do, we ask them to provide samples of what kind of setup they want to have. If it's just chairs and tables, it's a little easier normally, because then it's just giving them guidelines as to how much clearance they need to have for customers to be able to pass in between the dining room, the outdoor dining area. But once they have structures, there may be additional permitting required, especially if they're adding heaters and lighting. And once they're enclosed, there's additional factors that can come into play. They may need additional reviews, and then we coordinate with our other sections in the fire department and the building. We try to facilitate and expedite everything as fast as we can. We do it with emails and pictures and some site visits to kind of make suggestions, and hopefully that'll work for the brick and mortar business.
Now let's talk about liquor sales, because I know that last year there were some issues with, like, you know, a Lee's Discount Liquor or Total Wine not being able to deliver liquor, and or how does that work?
Being able to do it curbside,
right,
to take it out to the consumer. Yeah.
Has that changed?
Yes, actually, we did implement these time-limited programs where they were able to apply for a permit. It started out with the liquor stores, because the grocery stores, most of them were able to do it. They were considered essential, so they were able to still do their curbside service as normal. It was the liquor stores, and then it branched out to restaurants with liquor licenses eventually. And that's actually an active program that we have under our time-limited COVID program, where they could, if they are a licensed brick and mortar business that has a restaurant and a liquor license, they can apply for a permit to be able to provide takeout and curbside of the alcohol, where normally their liquor license doesn't allow that. They would have to consume the liquor on the premises with their meal.
Now the liquor still has to be closed and the manufacturer
from the manufacturer, yes.
Okay, and there's no opening it up in the car and driving it home with it, guys.
Yes.
That's still a rule.
Right,
That's
right.
still against the law. But so they can bring it out. Now, what about delivery? Can these restaurants?
Yes, there's also a permit that allows the restaurant employees to deliver the meal with the packaged alcohol.
Wow, and so have restaurants been reaching out to you a lot for this?
Yes, actually, currently I have a little bit over 200 businesses, brick and mortar businesses, that have those permits.
You know, another component is with the liquor delivery is internet sales. Can you explain to us
actually,
about that?
the City Council recently adopted an ordinance that did two things.
Okay.
It expanded the ancillary internet sales license that we have.
Okay.
That was only available to grocery stores.
So what does that mean?
So the grocery stores were the only ones who were eligible to apply for the internet sales license to allow people to order their alcohol online through the grocery store with their groceries to have it delivered to their home or place of business. But with the ordinance that was approved by the City Council on January 20th, now it's opened it up to different types of businesses that are also already licensed to sell manufactured packaged alcohol, like liquor stores, convenience stores, gift shops.
So I can order it online and that establishment can deliver to my home?
Correct. Now, if they apply for that additional license, an ancillary internet sales license. And then once they acquire that, the second part of that ordinance was creating a new license to allow pretty much a third-party company that provides delivery services to be able to go pick that up once the order is placed and take it to the consumer.
Wow, there's so many little things that you all have to think about with this pandemic. You guys have been doing an amazing job. What's been the feedback from customers and businesses?
Well, a lot of the temporary programs, they've been asking for those to be made permanent. Part one was the alcohol delivery one, where now that we've expanded the internet sales, a lot of the businesses that started out with, like the liquor stores, that started in the brew pubs that started out with the time limited permit, are now able to have that as a permanent license if they apply for the ancillary internet sales license.
Okay, so this is going to be a permanent thing for some portions of this.
Yes, and we're looking at more, but that's still being discussed by the City Council.
Okay, well, good to know if you're a business owner. Minerva, get some sleep, because it seems like you're going to be busy for a while.
But any questions, they can email us at license@lasvegasnevada.gov, license@lasvegasnevada.gov.
Okay, Minerva, great information. Thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, well, that's going to do it for today's Trending Vegas. Remember, you can catch us streaming on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire. Just be sure to download our Go Vegas app. We'll see you next time, everyone.